Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show. Now I'm delighted to be joined by my fellow royal correspondent and friend, Robert Jobson. I said I had my own nickname for him. He's known as the godfather of royal reporting. I like to call you the blues brother of royal reporting because you do have this uncanny resemblance to John Belushi.
I know, just he's dead though, isn't he? But
he is. But
when I left the Express, your old your old paper,
yes,
with Checker Batia, that's what we called the Snooze Brothers.
I love that
front page picture. But
yes.
Then I demanded my own one.
We might not get it right, but at least we get it last. Was often the motto of the paper that we worked on. Don't get it at all. Our King. It's a great book you've written about Charles III, and you've always had a bit of a fascination, I think, with Charles, because you've always got up close and personal. You've written a number of books about him. I mean, this is interesting because we're at the end of quite an interesting royal week, let's be honest, with Harry announcing that he's coming without Meghan. There's quite a lot in the papers today about whether there's going to be this rapprochement, this royal rapprochement. Talk us through your view on it, Rob, because I get the impression that the King might bring Harry in from the cold, but the Prince of Wales, William, is not having any of it.
Well, you know, you're a mum, I'm a dad. We know that we all love our kids equally, and whoever they are, whatever they've done to you, to a limit, I suppose. But he refers to his son Harry as my darling boy all the way through.
Yeah.
And Harry acknowledges that in his book Spare. So, look, I think, yes, he will try to have conversations with Harry. I'm sure he will. And the fact that Meghan's not there, that will probably be more advantageous, shall we say. Not because he doesn't like Meghan, but at least they can speak more freely. As for William, no, I don't think there'll be any rapprochement. And in fact, I write in the book about when they try to force that Fab Four thing on us during the Queen's death, you know, that sort of fake walkabout when they're supposed to be together, that Kate said to another member of the royal family that it was one of the hardest things she ever had to do. Now, then immediately on Twitter you get all those Sussex troll idiots saying, well, you need to get out more if that's the hardest thing she ever done. You know, but, you know, the point of it is that it was a very difficult thing, particularly what happened as you broke that story over the Charlotte, and particularly what happened with
the bridesmaid tears.
Yeah, the bridesmaid tears.
Who cried?
And then all that. Who cried? Who
I cried at the end of it. I can tell you that.
But and then you got. But clearly you saw the two brothers. They weren't backing down. There's you know, it's like two stags who just don't want to stop fighting.
But it doesn't. It's not a good look, is it? If, to be fair, there's a degree of magnanimity here. He's going to be put in the cheap seats. He's not going to be able to...
We don't know that.
Well, OK, I say that metaphorically.
I suspect he won't be in the cheap seats.
But he's not going to take part in any procession. He's not going to be on the balcony. He's not going to go to any of the other events.
No, because he's not a working role. But I think he might be in
But does it make William look churlish if he kind of stands in the way of... Clearly, I'm getting the impression from your book that the King would rather be reconciled with Harry. That's the point here.
Well, that's between Harry and the King. I mean, you know, they're old enough to sort that out amongst themselves. It's clear that William's not really happy about it, but William, at the end of the day, is sworn to be a liege man to the King, and if the King wants it, he should just get on with it.
Get on with it and take orders from above.
Just get on with it. Make the King's life as easy as possible. It's going to be a short reign, only because the King will be 75 in November. But you know, and I hope it's at least another 20 years, and it could well be. But the fact is, William will get his time. He'll get his moment in the sun. At this moment in time, he's the heir. Well, act like the heir. Support your father, and if your father wants you to try to build bridges, build bridges.
On the King as an individual, how do you find him? What words would you use to describe him? I think he's a bit misunderstood.
Oh, he's definitely misunderstood. I mean, I remember meeting him out, I don't know if you were there, we went round his garden, and the
Highgrove tour.
The Highgrove tour, and I thought it was fascinating. I actually went back on a private tour later, and he said, well, and he met me for a cup of tea in the orangery.
Nice.
And he said, what do you think? And I was trying to think of what to say, because it is a bit slightly bonkers, his garden. There are bits of it. And he went, eccentric. And I went, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I say he's a little eccentric, but I think he's a visionary. I think he's a pioneer in certain areas of trying to have a sustainable planet. I think he's dutiful, and I also think he's someone who's an honourable and decent man, which again you get people saying, how can he be honourable and decent when what happened with Diana? Well, there were two to tango in that situation, and yes, he did probably reflect upon it, as it says in the book, that before getting married, he probably should have pulled out, and he was still thinking about it, but he was torn between the devil and the deep blue sea, because the newspapers at that time were far more powerful than they are now.
Yes.
And they were just saying, you've got to get married. Kept re-quoting, at 30, you said you're going to get married. And they were, they were making up stories, actually. There was a story that he said he snuck Diana aboard the royal train before they were married, and then that was denied officially, and then he thought it was Camilla. Actually, wasn't either of those. It was a private secretary's wife who was going to see his wife. And
newspapers in getting it slightly wrong.
Well, they got it slightly wrong, but at the end of the day, that probably led to him being the letter from Philip, the
get
pressure.
On with it. Don't look like a playboy.
Well, it was more like not get on with it. It was like, say, if you are going to marry her.
Do it.
If you're not, don't marry her, so that she's not getting all this her privacy wrecked.
You touched on the planet and this idea that he's now seen as this visionary, whereas before he was rather lampooned for his belief in the talking to the plant stuff. Why isn't he more popular with the youth of today then? Because you'd imagine this eco-warrior, the sort of royal equivalent of Greta Thunberg, would be really popular with the 18s to 24s. There's some research out this week, YouGov have suggested that the young don't really care. They're all moving towards republicanism. Is the royal family in crisis, as the Sunday Express has reported this morning?
Oh, that's what Sunday Express.
Well, the Sunday Express is saying that they're not doing as many engagements as they used to.
Well, as the King said to me when I was in Australia, polls doesn't really pay a lot of attention to them. He's in it for the long term. If we worried about polls, we'd still be in Europe, because we were told that Brexit wouldn't happen. So I think polls are piffle most of the time, but they rely on that in the Sunday Express because you're no longer there.
Well,
breaking stories.
That's kind of you. And I think we should say that the Sunday Express is still breaking good stories. However,
but they put a poll on the front.
They put a poll on the front, but it is interesting because it's saying that the royals are moving away from the Princess Anne model. Are the younger ones lazier?
They're certainly not as interested.
Well, that's a problem, Robert, isn't it?
Not for this king,
who
no.
do you
for
think
the next
isn't
king.
interested? What are you saying, William and Kate?
I'm saying that the young people are not interested in this king, but why would they be?
Oh, I see. Sorry, I thought you meant the younger royals weren't interested in the role.
It's not going to be a problem for our king, because he's probably only going to be on the throne.
It might be a problem for the Prince and Princess of Wales.
Well, then maybe they need to do a bit more.
Ah, so you're saying they are a bit work shy?
I'm not saying work shy. They're committed to their family. They have children under the age of 10, and I think they're probably doing for them what is right. But we're losing some of the glamour. Harry's decided to do a bunk and go and live in California whilst retaining the title, which should actually be taken away.
Right.
And the Prince and Princess's title has gone to Lilibet and Archie. Technically, they should be allowed to do that. It should be taken away because ultimately, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, is that, if you're going to go and live in a country which is a republic that fought in 1776, the founding fathers weren't trying to... They created a president, not a king.
Yeah.
Why do you have to have titles if you don't want to be royal? And if you want to then attack that very institution that you're taking the titles for.
But on this job thing, finally, it should be a bit more Princess Anne-like. They should be doing more engagements.
Princess Royal is a terrific lady, and she's done a brilliant job for many years, and we'll always be grateful to her.
Robert, thank you very much. His book, Our King, is out now. Now, I'll be back next week at 9:30 with more punchy political interviews. But up next, covering for Michael Portillo, it's Arlene Foster.